just be some hope for the U.S. national team in Copa America. Full-time roundup starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. This is another edition of the Full-Time Roundup podcast, officially back. 2 episodes in 1 week. We're going crazy after a little bit of hiatus after the domestic season in Europe ended. Plus, when I came back from Europe, happy to be back. Harrison, I got to see you this weekend. It was always a pleasure to see you. And happy to have you on the pod today as we are going to be discussing all the competitions this summer right now, starting with the Euros. We are recording right after the Czech Turkey game, as well as the Portugal-Georgia game. Let's go ahead and start out with that group. Georgia, first time ever getting out of the group stage. First time ever in the tournament, period, I believe. And what a moment for those fans. I still remember watching the qualifiers as they won in PKs to get into the tournament. And this result especially was a bit of a surprise to me, as I thought Portugal, even with their B lineup, was going to take care of business today. But with some help from Turkey, Georgia are able to punch their ticket into the group stage or into the knockout round, thanks to Kvaratskhelia and the man I shouted out last episode, Mikaduz or something like that. It's basically impossible to pronounce, but what can you do?
No, every single name on this lineup is impossible to pronounce, to be fair. I don't even try with what's his name? I just call him Kavicha. But he's
can
amazing.
do that one, Kvaratskhelia. I know that one because I've had practice.
Yeah.
But
I heard a Cavradonna today. Did you hear that?
No, but it makes sense as he plays for Napoli.
It does.
But let's go ahead and react to these games. Georgia completely stifled Portugal. Are we going to overthink this Portugal result, or are we just kind of brush it under the rug since basically the entire B team was starting today? Ronaldo obviously very frustrated getting hooked after 66 minutes.
Yeah. I told you before the tournament, even though Portugal might have the most talent on paper, they just feel like in big tournaments ever since they won the Euros that they haven't been able to put it together. And I still am not quite sure, because they kind of had the same path through the group that Belgium did. Really bad in the first game, and then a really solid bounce back second game. And then today's game was like meh. I feel like people are just double teaming Ronaldo in the box and not letting him even have a chance. And then it's all up to skill out wide. And I mean, today I know it's the B lineup, but like Conceição couldn't get anything going. João Felix couldn't create anything. I'm a little nervous where their offense is going to come from. And I think Bernardo Silva is just a huge piece that they need to get going into basically every single attack that they have. And I think you guys mentioned on the last podcast that I don't remember who it was, but can't see this team winning with Pepe at the back.
I hated the take.
I mean, I'm not going to let age get in the way. But I don't have belief in Portugal as much as I do some of the other teams. I think their ceiling, even though I guess their ceiling is super high, but I just don't know if they can ever get there. And I don't know what it is exactly, but I can see that. Who do they play next round? I can't even remember now.
So we'll go over the predictions in a little bit. It doesn't even matter as of right now. But to go back to the Pepe point, who did not start today? Pepe. You know what? They conceded 2 goals. I mean, Danilo Pereira looked bad. Andre Silva looked decent.
He was wearing the captain's armband after Ronaldo went out. I was like, wow, this guy's
he was there when they won the Euros. He actually, got a move to PSG after that because of his good performance. Can play CDM and center back in his older age. Now he's playing more center back. But I mean, I didn't think Ignacio from Sporting looked that good. So I still think the best center back pairing is Pep and Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz also didn't play today. But Bernardo Silva did score the last game, and he seemed to play. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes, it seems like he kind of is the conductor of this team, and he didn't play as well. We got Leao on one wing, probably Bernardo Silva on the other, João Palhinha, Vitinha. So, I mean, this was
so much talent.
So much talent. I do think that Portugal are going to be fine. I just think it's a little bit too direct with Ronaldo starting in the number 9, and none of the B team really covered themselves in glory in terms of attacking wise. Jota came on, missed a sitter. Concalo Ramos is basically useless at times. So I feel like Roberto Martinez will go back to the lineup that he started in the first 2 games. Actually, the second game, as João Palhinha started that second game. I'm not exactly worried about them. I think this is actually a really good loss for them in terms of the tournament, because they were already through. They were already going to place first, so it wasn't that much pressure. But you obviously don't want to put up a stinker against, especially a team like Georgia, one of the biggest upsets of the tournament.
Yeah, I thought, to their credit, Georgia, they played an excellent game, and they defended so well. I mean, they were clamping the mess out of Portugal. They didn't have anything going forward. And then Kavicha was brilliant. His runs through the middle, there were multiple times he was taking on 3 or 4 defenders and beating every single one of them. And I was like, this guy is incredible.
Special. I mean, let's talk about that Landon Donovan. Most Americans won't know who this guy is. Well, Napoli won the Serie A a year ago, and he might have been the player of the year, if not Osimhen. I can't remember who it was, but he was like they called him the Georgian Messi. I mean, this guy's had hype for a year and a half. Didn't have a great season this year, but I mean, if you're a soccer follower, you probably have an idea of who this guy is. So for Landon Donovan, just to say that, just everything he says just makes me feel uncomfortable just in general. I can't stand him on the broadcast. I know he's a U.S. legend, but don't think this is the career choice for him, and especially pairing him with Ian Dark, a legend of the game. It's
disrespectful.
A weird pairing. It really is, in my opinion. But I guess I rather him commentate on this game than a U.S. game at the end of the day. But just wanted to mention that.
It's funny to just like seeing them in the booth together, and Ian Dark is the one who called his Go-Go USA goal. It's like kind of weird how that all comes together. But yeah, no, I'm not a huge fan of him in the booth. I think maybe he should do something else. Maybe retire in peace.
No doubt. Now you mentioned Georgia and how they're set up. They're excellently coached. They've been basically carried by their 2 up top, Kvara, and I'm going to call him Big Mika, as well as their goalkeeper who plays for Valencia. He
was ridiculous today.
He's been ridiculous all tournament. I mean, it's quite remarkable. He was like I think he was like the 3rd string goalkeeper at Valencia and ended up beating everyone out. And after an injury, he started the rest of the season, I believe. And he's just been, it's like kind of like the NHL playoffs in hockey. Just if your goalie gets hot, then you can kind of go far in the tournament. And he kind of basically, those 3 players, especially number 6 in the middle, has basically willed this team into the knockout stages. So obviously they are paired against Brazil or Spain next, which hurts because that'll probably not end up well for them. But I wanted to give Georgia their flowers as probably one of the smallest countries in this tournament and relatively unknown. To go and to do something like that today is just amazing.
Yeah, I guess if I was going to agree with anything Landon Donovan said, it's that I wish I was in the capital of Georgia tonight with everybody there, because it's going to be, I'm sure it's already started, an absolute party. So,
no, absolutely. To go to the other game, because this game was just so bonkers, it's hard not to talk about. We got Turkey in Czech, and is it Czechia?
Czechia. I heard you trying to pronounce that last.
It was brutal.
Czechia. You were struggling.
I was literally there, and I got in my own head about it. Now it's like a mental block. But referee gave out, I believe, 16 yellow cards, completely lost the plot. There was a red card that kind of iced the game for a little bit. Barak for Czechia got a red card in like the 30th minute. But in Turkey opened the scoring. Thomas Juchek, who else, brings him back level. Obviously, Patrick Schick was out due to a calf strain last game. He had to get subbed for. And then Czechia goes and scores a goal, and the referee, they're literally just absolutely shitting on this referee on the broadcast. It was something I've never seen. Even Mark Clattenburg came on and was like, I don't know what this guy's doing. It's bad. Disallowed a goal that was definitely a goal, if not a penalty, the other way around. And then Turkey, in the last second of the game, punches their ticket with a last second goal. I mean, the gap between the front line and the back line for Czechia at the end was just like 40 yards. They just kept going long balls and try to pick it up. It was crazy. Yellow cards galore. We'll see who's going to be suspended for the next matches. Some of those yellow cards had to accumulate into a suspension here. But I really like Turkey before the tournament, and I'm glad to see them go out to the knockout stages, as they've been some of the best fans in the entire Euros.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of are, and they kind of were going in, kind of a sleeper, just with some of the guys they have. Arda Güler, obviously sensational young player, but I think that I think the ref in this game, like, you give out 16 yellow cards, it's just not going to be that entertaining to watch. It's going to be so choppy. 2 reds in the end for Czechia. You just kind of feel bad that the game just had no rhythm. I mean, when it's the same thing, we were going to bring up the NHL. Like, you're calling penalties the whole game. No team's going to have any rhythm whatsoever. So to see that many yellows is a little disheartening. And I wish we were able to see like a full game where, we get the full 11 on 11 with no real hesitancy.
Absolutely. So they have punched their ticket. It will be Turkey versus Austria. On one side of the bracket, Portugal versus Slovenia on the other, and then Georgia versus Spain, like I mentioned before. Now we're gonna hop to the 2 games that happened at noon today, Eastern Standard Time, starting with Belgium. We're gonna keep a trend of this of absolutely loaded rosters who are playing dreadfully in this tournament, and Belgium is almost at the top of the list. They drew today against a beaten up Ukraine. No Mudryk, Zinchenko on the bench, and Lukaku up there is one of the most infuriating players I've ever seen. And when it comes to a Belgian kit, he usually misses sitters. Today, he was just completely on a different page than his other players. I mean, Daku, I couldn't count how many times they tried to link up, and one of them had an errant pass. It's just so boring and so inorganic going forward for them, kind of like England in a way. And they got a really tough game against France, another underperforming team. But I have a feeling that France will turn it up here and absolutely spank them after seeing Belgium for 3 games.
I mean, at this point in the tournament, they deserve to play France with how poor they've been. I mean, that you mentioned it, and it was the glaring thing to me today that Doku and Lukaku could not get on the same page, and it was super frustrating for somebody who had a goal or assist for Rom, and trying to believe that maybe he was just in some bad luck and that he was due. He just, I don't think that he got enough balls to his feet. He's posting up every defender possible, and they could not find him at all. But secondly, that sort of link up with him and Doku is obviously so crucial, and they were just not able to get on the same page at all. Belgium's going to go how Kevin De Bruyne goes, and
he's been meh.
He's been meh, but I also think that he's had to start a little deeper than they would like, and part of that I think is due to the inability to pass out of the back. I mean, I thought defensively Foss was good today, but that guy with the ball at his feet is a problem. And you're also starting a 40-year-old Jan Vertonghen next to him, which is just a whole nother story. I think Onana is kind of a loose cannon. I don't really know what to make of this Belgium team at all. And like I mentioned, they're going to need De Bruyne to just basically create something magical or figure out the link-up play between Doku and Lukaku. And now they get France, and it's something that they deserve because they've been so poor in this group stage.
Yeah, you mentioned how Georgia, basically double-teamed Ronaldo when it comes to the box. It feels like they were doing the same. Ukraine was doing the same thing with Lukaku in the box, and after 3 games, Tedesco probably should pick that up and maybe try a more vertical route. Maybe less balls into the box and more link up play. And I think this game was screaming for De Ketelaere or Openda or even Johan Bakayoko with Doku on one side, Bakayoko on the other, just to be able to just take a man on and beat him and link up with KDB and run in behind and find those pockets of space. It just is so boring. And Trossard isn't a guy that you find, behind the ball. He's kind of like a link up play. And, Ukraine were happy to just kind of man mark and make Belgium basically beat them. And they really had no answer. So I just think that Tedesco should basically throw his original Euros game plan out the window and start something fresh against France. I think that's the only way they have a good chance of winning. And it's just, for such a young, promising coach of Tedesco, you'd think he should be able to figure out, but it seems like another tournament, another bad showing by Belgium.
Yeah, I completely echo your points that you made last podcast about Openda. I think that I don't want to say he brings more than Lukaku, but it's just something different, and nothing's really worked so far. So I think that a change of pace with him, even if you're bringing him on earlier than they brought him on today in like the 87th minute, it's not really going to change anything. But I think that, if the game does get stale, which they have been getting stale for Belgium, then he would be a nice change of pace for them. And he's had a brilliant season at Leipzig. I would like to see him get more of an opportunity, especially with Rom coming out of the group stage with no goals. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you're asking, you need production from Lukaku, and obviously he's been super unlucky with the VAR. But I mean, at some point, I think they need to switch it up. And if they go for more of the pace route with Openda, I don't know. It could be something different.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of Georgia absolutely punching above their weight, how about this Group E of terrorism? All tying on 4 points. Ukraine, the first team to get eliminated ever with 4 points in 4th place, just because they had a -2 goal differential. But Romania topped the group, Belgium in 2nd, and Slovakia in 3rd. Romania will be playing. Let me check here. Romania is playing the Dutch.
Yeah.
And so if Belgium could have gotten their head out of their asses, they could have matched up against the Netherlands, which is a much better matchup than France. But no, Romania will be facing them. And this Romanian team, had a draw today against Slovakia. I didn't get to watch this game too much as I was more focused on the Belgium game. But I don't think I've ever seen a group tie all with 4 points, goal differential basically being the tying factor here. And I'm not sure why Romania got the nod over Belgium because they were tied on goal differential as well. I think it was probably coming to fair play, yellow cards basically. But super weird group. And I wanted to move on to another terrible group. This is group, I believe it's D. No, group C.
Yeah.
England's group, another underperforming team. I don't think I've ever witnessed more of a boring slate of games in my entire life than yesterday at 3:00. England, Slovenia tied 0-0. Denmark, Serbia tied 0-0. Just absolutely dreadful. No team's interested in going to get the 3 points here. England topped the group with 5 points, Denmark with 3, Slovenia with 3, and then Serbia with 2. I like Serbia a lot before going to this tournament, and I'm pretty disappointed of how they performed. But what do you want to get to first? What's your feeling on this group?
Probably the fact that England completely got away with getting first place out of this group. I mean, they were so poor and so lethargic. And the fact that they got first out of this group is insane. Maybe it speaks more about Denmark, that they just like yesterday. That's a must-win game in my opinion. You have to capitalize, and they end up drawing 0-0. Also, the fact that just the teams that are go first, second, and third, England, Denmark, Slovenia, all score a total of 2 goals in the group stage, which is just thrilling soccer, absolutely thrilling. But I think for me, the storyline is that England have not found their game, have played nowhere near what they're capable of, and they still figured out a way to win first. If it wasn't for Jude Bellingham scoring against Serbia the first game, who knows where they are exactly right now. Again, probably tied for third, and there's a 3-way tie for first. I think it's a little bit scary for other teams that England hasn't figured it out, and yet they got the position that they are. But again, I feel like the storyline more is that they've just looked so poor. I just don't understand how with that kind of lineup you can look so bad going forward. You have the best striker arguably in the world. They, like you mentioned in the last one, they took him off and replaced him with Ollie Watkins in a tie game, which I just don't agree with. And Phil Foden hasn't looked great. I saw he went back to England today for a family matter, so who knows when he'll be back. There's a lot of question marks with the England team, but at the same time, they figured out a way to win first without looking great.
Yeah, I mean, before the tournament, we didn't have a preview, but if we did, I would have talked about how England's, front 7 look absolutely amazing. And what's going to lose them this tournament is the back line. But the back line has been the best part of this roster. I mean, they've kept 2 clean sheets, only conceded 1 goal, and that was against Denmark, and it was an absolute screamer from outside the box. Mark Gahey's looked good, Stones, Trippier, Walker. Southgate keeps toying around with the midfield. Yesterday he started Conor Gallagher, who did literally nothing, absolutely nothing. Bench Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not even going to get my Liverpool bias in here because I think Kobe Mainu, I think Adam Morton could start in that position. Hell, I think you could slot Jude Bellingham back to the 8 and let, Foden or Cole Palmer cook in the 10. He's got to figure it out. If he starts this lineup next game, I think England crash out of the tournament. Harry Kane basically with almost no touches the entire game. It's all bad. I can't figure out how to fix it. My one thought is maybe trying Trent at left back to give them more of a, let him push up a little bit, and then Rice can kind of sit back a little bit more and let Bellingham and whoever else cook. I thought Cole Palmer actually did look really good off the bench. He was one of the sparks. And hell, you got Eberechi Eze on the bench who can take a man on at any time. If one of these players who are world renowned aren't going to do it, let Eze do it because he's fearless. And so, you have probably the most stacked bench on the entire tournament. Yet England literally recorded, I think, 2 shots on target last game.
There's just no explosion. I haven't seen anything where nobody's willing to take somebody one-on-one, and I think that's where I think Saka's been a non-factor, really.
He's been dreadful.
I think Cole Palmer is. Listen, he's had an incredible year, and each time they've brought him on, he's at least added something. I don't know if you're necessarily going to start Palmer over Saka. I doubt Southgate's going to do that, but they just need some sort of infusion of just some spark. It's so slow. I don't understand how with that kind of talent, that front seven, like you mentioned, that it's that slow. It's hard for me to fathom a little bit just how poor it's been.
And it's just even more hard to watch. It really
Yeah.
is. I have not enjoyed watching a single England game. Let's go to Group D here.
Oh, also,
What's up?
you mentioned putting Trent back in. I'd probably, if I was going to do anything, I'd probably move Walker to left back and just put Trent back in his normal position, because Kyle Walker's proven over the years that he can play either side. I think if you put Trent on the right and he's making those runs where you can whip it in with his right, that would probably benefit them more. Plus, he's playing in his position that he's normally playing in. I mean, the fact that they're trying to make him into a midfielder with that kind of lineup, I don't understand at all. So if you're putting him back in his normal position and having Walker going on the other flank, I think that, maybe they'll create something, at least definitely create more chances for Harry Kane to capitalize in the middle.
And that's no hit on Kieran Trippier either, because Kieran Trippier's, had a good tournament. It's just giving you a different look. He doesn't have the legs to bomb forward, and take some chances. And Kyle Walker at this point, when it comes to England, doesn't want to do it either. And so having a little bit of a outside back who's fearless and who does it all the time at Liverpool, I think would really benefit them. I do have to agree. Maybe Trent at right back and Kyle Walker slots in at left back. Now, Group D, crazy group here, as France end up tying on the final day, even with Mbappe starting. It was a bit of a B lineup, but not really, to be honest. I take that back. I mean, Barcola gets the nod. Chinemi finally starts. But Mbappe did score the goal. It was a penalty. He had a multitude of chances against Poland and could not finish. But Poland are given a lifeline from a penalty. Then Maignan saves it, but he was off the line. And then Lewandowski gets to retake it and slots it in for the tie. I mean, the XG here, as Matt hates XG, doesn't matter though. 2.3, 19 shots, 8 on target. France definitely should have won this game. The keeper, I believe his name is Scarupsi for Bologna, absolutely stood on his head in this game. But France are yet to click, and I'm starting to. I think I have a theory why, but I want to hear your reason first.
Well, one, I want to give my flowers to N'Golo Kante, because this guy just came back out of the woods. We haven't heard of this guy since Chelsea. He literally just went to Saudi Arabia, finally made his money, doing his own little thing. Who knows if he's still driving the Mini Cooper he used to.
Or riding a bike.
Or doing that, or just literally having dinner with fans of the team. But comes back in, and again, just shows his dominance all over the field. This guy's heat map every single game is just freakish. But for France, I think the game against Poland is a little bit more of what we're used to, creating lots of chances. You think back to the first game and really the second game against the Netherlands. They didn't have an actual goal that they scored. They scored an own goal, but they hadn't created anything. And so their goals this tournament so far have been an own goal and a penalty, which love that.
Not great,
but also not great. Mbappe looks even more like, I always thought he looked like a Ninja Turtle, and now he's got the mask on, and now I think he even more looks like a Ninja Turtle. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I personally think that Camavinga is too talented not to start. I just think he's better than Rabiot, even though Rabiot has been excellent for France. I think that Camavinga is just too talented. And you start a three of Tchouaméni, Kanté, and Camavinga. That is just sickening stuff. But I don't know. I think they can't figure out the wing a little bit. Barcola starts last game, and he has so much pace and he has the chemistry with Mbappe from PSG, but I just don't know. And I think Dembele is a threat, but I just can't. I don't know what it is. They just can't create for me enough.
I do find it funny how France started a whole PSG front line with Barcola, Dembele, Mbappe. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I've seen that before. That's weird.
yeah.
I have a couple theories. Number one, I actually didn't mind the front three. I thought they had plenty of chances. I mean, Dembele, God, he's probably one of the most frustrating players I've ever watched because the talent you just see is there. He just skins people for
Mhm.
breakfast. He just is so fearless, but that final product just cannot put the ball in the back of the net. Kind of like a Luis Diaz in a way, just like can do everything. You'll
Good
see
comp.
glimpses of just brilliance. And then just when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net or that final pass, he just completely loses himself. I thought Barcola was an interesting addition. I think he's better than Muani. I think Kingsley Coman deserves a shout here,
I
a little
agree.
bit over Muani, but I think it's the midfield. You mentioned N'Golo Kante, fantastic player. Hate that he went to Saudi. He should be playing in Champions League finals week in, week out, in my opinion. But when you have Kante, Rabiot, and Chumani, that's a
A little
very,
redundant. A little redundant.
very, very defensive midfield. And I saw Rabiot miss a sitter or two. Conte in the final third just does not do it for me. He's better as an 8 or 6. So, I mean, I think
Are you
benching
starting Griezmann in
Griezmann.
midfield?
I think I'm starting Griezmann. That's how they won the Euros.
Yeah.
Um, I think you start Griezmann in the midfield. I think you look at Kamavinga in the midfield. Anyway, you just got to get a little bit more attacking, and that will
Mhm.
put the pressure off the front three to feel like they have to create everything. So I'm probably going to drop Rabiot here and go with literally any of the people we just mentioned, and see if that fixes things. But that's my personal take on just how to fix France. But probably the best story of the group is Austria, and Austria and Netherlands have an absolute thriller of a game. 5 goals. Austria ended up winning this game due to Sabitzer just rolling back the years here. And Ralph Rangnick ball, as I mentioned before, is absolutely purring.
It is.
And I'm going to make it. I think they could get to the semis easily.
It lines up for him.
I think this side of the bracket is fantastic. Even though they have 1,000 midfielders that they're starting, it works. You got Big Marco up top. You know, the front three did not play great, but then you put Baumgartner
Mhm.
on. I think he is one of the best players on the team. I think he's the best player on the pitch when he came on. I think he must start over Wimmer
Mhm.
or Schmid. Um, but everything else in the team is
You're starting.
fantastic.
I think you're typically starting Limer too.
And Limer will probably start over say Grilich. But I mean, this is a team that isn't flashy, but just plays a really attractive brand of football and is just excellently coached. And the Dutch have a much better team, and they just had no ways around it. I thought that dropping Xavi Simmons was very interesting for this match over Mullen, who scores the own goal. And then that midfield for the Dutch is just meh.
Yeah.
Especially they're missing Frankie De Jong really badly, and I
Mhm.
thought he would be healthy for this tournament.
How about Genie getting some time still? Wijnaldum.
Old,
Uh,
old, reliable.
yeah, I like this Austria team a lot. I think, like you mentioned, Baumgartner and Limer are typically going to start. Would have been interesting to see where Alaba would fit in if he was playing, but I think that the Ragnick ball. I mean, they deserved a better fate against France. They played excellent against France, and the only goal of that game was an own goal. And Austria had plenty of chances in that game as well. I do think that it sets up pretty well for them. I mean, let me see, you get Turkey first game. I think they can beat Turkey. They're a better team than Turkey is as a whole. And then you're probably setting up another matchup against the Netherlands, which they
Yep.
just showed that they can beat them. And that was without Xavi, which, like you mentioned, just an odd dropping because that guy was unreal against France. Yeah, I think that their path is really good, and we could possibly see them get all the way to the semis here. It would be a cool story, I think.
No, absolutely. And Austria are probably my favorite team at this point. I like
They just
watching
play
them.
good. They just play fun football, man.
They really do. They really do. And let's move on to Group B here as we're kind of reviewing all these groups in out of order, but kind of going from today to the past. We have Group B here, Croatia and Italy. What a game that was! I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this one actually.
Go ahead.
Spalletti, love the guy. Loved his football at Napoli, but I don't know what the hell he was thinking starting this lineup against Croatia. Has given Skamaka almost zero time, goes 3-5-2, Raspadori and Retegui up top. It's just been really bad. And it took, a Donnarumma PK save. Modric ends up getting it 2 minutes later. And then a Zagagny fucking wonder goal at the end in the 98th minute to seal your time. This is probably the most talented team other than obviously Spain in this group. And Croatia are just a bad team at this point. Croatia are very bad. And I feel bad for Modric because he deserves better. But, I mean, Spalletti, if he does some shit like he did in this game, they are going to crash out of the group. But if he gets it right and starts Chiesa and Skamaka up top, then I'm feeling really good because those two are the players that changed the game, especially Chiesa. And even Skamaka with his hold-up play. I mean, the fact that you bench Chiesa is just unacceptable as the best attacking player in all of Italy.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Chiesa, I mean, God, you think to his last Euros what he was doing. I mean, this guy's made for big international tournaments. I don't know what it is. You just got that dog in him when it matters most. You don't start him and you throw out this lineup, which I mean, where are the chances coming from this group? I really don't know.
There weren't any.
Yeah. I mean, you take out Skamaka and Chiesa and you're replacing him with Raspadori and Retegui. I don't see it. You're starting Jorginho in there, which
he's been terrible.
I've always loved Jorginho. You know me, but God, I think the time has come where he doesn't need to be playing 90 minutes, close to 90 minutes for you in a European Championship. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I think that if Spalletti can figure it out, he's got to start his top dogs. It just makes no sense why he wouldn't, and I'm sure he will next game. I mean, it would be a serious problem for him, his job, if he doesn't. So I think that, he will. I would be completely surprised if he did not start Skamaka and Chiesa. But hey, I mean, this game was nuts. Like you mentioned, I feel sick for Modric. Like, the guy won man of the match. The photo after the game was just so sad. Holding the man of the match trophy and his face, he was shooting daggers through the lens of that camera. I was sick for him. He's had an unbelievable international career. Amazing career in general.
One of the best of all time.
Yeah.
Arguably,
I mean, this
on an international level, you could argue the best, other than maybe Messi.
You wouldn't really picture Croatia making it to a World Cup final, and he carried them on his back there. So, but like you mentioned, this Croatia team just is not what it used to be. And I'm surprised that they even were able to make a game out of this, to be honest. But part of it is because of the lineups like we talked about.
Yeah. And
the late goal was insane.
Late goal was crazy. Calafiori, God, he's going to look so good in the Liverpool kit, hopefully. I mean, that guy is ridiculously good. His price tag has probably doubled since the end of the season with Bologna. I'd probably start Fagioli over Jorginho and have a Pellegrini, Fagioli, Barella midfield. So let Fagioli kind of roam forward with Barella and let Lorenzo Pellegrini kind of sit. You could play three at the back. You could even play a 4-3-3 with that. Chiesa out wide, Skamaka in the middle, and then you could pick, maybe roll the dice with Zagagny again. But you have plenty of options there. I mean, Frattesi also looked all right. So it's really up to Spalletti to kind of figure this out, and they have the talent to go deep in this tournament. So we'll see what they do now. On the other side, Spain B team beats Albania. Albania was one of the best stories of the tournament. They do finish fourth in a stacked group, but their football, they almost tied or could have won this game against Spain. But I'm not really concerned about this game. I'm more concerned about just Spain in general, as them and Germany are kind of the favorites, or pipped to be the favorites of this tournament. You got Lamine Yamal on one side, Nico Williams on the other. Morata has looked lively. Danny Olmo is just kicking on. I love Danny Olmo as a player. It's really interesting team. And how do you feel about them?
Yeah, they're figuring out a way to get the most out of these guys still. You know, I kind of thought Morata was dead. Like, he's back again. I can't get rid of this guy.
No, you can't.
I hate that it sets up for a Spain-Germany quarter. Like,
it's such a shame that the way the bracket, we'll get to it, but the way the bracket landed is just terrible.
Yeah, it's painful because these are two teams that you would love to see battle in a final. But I mean, Spain in general, they're just so dangerous all of a sudden. And a lot of it, I think, is due to the play of Lamine Yamal. What he adds to that team, I mean, this guy is ridiculous.
You see that touch?
Yeah.
Against Albania? Oh my God.
Yeah, no, this guy is I cream for a guy like Lamine Yamal at Chelsea. But yeah, Spain are a force. And once you get there, they're beating Albania. It's Albania, but Albania does love an early goal as they prove this tournament. But a full Spain team, I mean, they've made Marc Cucurella look unbelievable back. Like, I don't know. All of a sudden, Ben Chilwell is out the door at Chelsea because Cucurella is top G. But I love the Spain team. I think they're so exciting. And like I mentioned, and we'll get to the predictions later, but I just hate how the bracket has to fall.
No pun intended. Yeah, I mean, Fabian, if they wanted to win this tournament, Fabian Ruiz had to play very well, and he's been remarkable next to Pedri. So it's just been great. And the last and final group is Group A, with Germany and the Swiss progressing. Hungary missed out on the third spot, and lowly Scotland in fourth place. I didn't really know what to expect from this Germany-Swiss game, but a draw seemed like a fairly fair result. How do you feel about Switzerland? Because I feel like everyone knows how good Germany can be.
I like Switzerland. I think that we saw it in the 1-1 game, like you mentioned. Like, if they play that kind of brand where they're able to play on the counter, they're super dangerous. And Bolo's got so much speed up there. The other guy, Ndoye?
Yeah, Ndoye.
Yeah, that guy also has a ton of speed. They can pose a serious threat. And they got a keeper in Jan Sommer who's been there and done it before, and has proven in big moments to make big saves. I think that they're very dangerous and not an easy out. And we saw that at the last Euros where they knocked out France in the quarters, I don't even know. Maybe it was the quarters, but it was in penalties. How they just don't go away. And I think that it's very tough to put away the Swiss, and it's going to make them a really tough out in the knockout stage.
I agree. Big Shaq didn't even play or didn't start. I mean, you got Okafor as a third option up top, who's, was kicking it decently in Milan here.
Shaka.
To move on to Nshaka as well, who had probably his best season of ever. But to move on to Germany, with this tie against Swiss, have we been overrating the Germans here? Or do you think the Swiss are that good? Or do you think they knew they won the group and they didn't have to really go into that highest gear?
I think just in their third game, knowing that they're going through, I think maybe there's a little let off. But I also think Switzerland's a very good team. I think I rate Switzerland maybe higher than some other teams, and just that they can be dangerous. But no, I think Germany is outstanding. And Jamal Musiala is playing like the player of the tournament. I mean, that guy, he is so exciting to watch. You get the captainship from Gundogan, the leader in the middle, who's always been so steady. You got Kai Havertz, who, I don't know exactly what to make of Kai Havertz. Not the best finisher, but at times I would rather see Füllkrug play there, I think, because I think he's more lethal than him for sure.
That was my next point, was if you're Julian Nagelsmann, Fulkrug's come off the bench and scored 2 goals now.
Yeah.
Do you start him in the next game?
I think you give him a chance. I do. Yeah, I think that Havertz hasn't been able to put the ball in the back of the net, really, and Fulkrug's come in and made the difference, and he scores the tying goal against the Swiss to get them the draw. I just think that you have to give him a chance and reward him.
Play the hot hand. No, I like it.
That's
I
right.
agree. So we'll move on to predictions. Glad we kind of got into everything. Bad teams punching above their weight, the stacked teams playing like shit. It's just been a remarkable tournament. I'm super excited for the knockout stages. So we got just going to go down the list. Georgia, Spain. I think Spain obviously just destroys Georgia. But do you think it'll be close?
Not particularly. I think that Georgia had their moment, unfortunately, and this is where Spain just kind of stomps on their neck.
They're going to need a Georgian goalkeeper to absolutely go crazy in this match to make it even close.
They're going to need Donnarumma 2.0 to stand on his head. So if I had to guess, I would say Spain like 3-0 here.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Germany versus Denmark. I personally think the Germans are going to bash the Danish.
Denmark just hasn't done enough for me. I mean, they've always been stingy. They've always been a tough out. I'd say Germany scores in the first half and scores late to make it 2-0.
I could agree with that. Portugal versus Slovenia. Portugal off a terrible loss here. I think they take it out on Slovenia. I'm going chalk.
Yeah, as long as they have their A team, this should be an easy win for them. Slovenia, I mean, they're punching a little bit above their weight here. So I'll go Portugal 2-0 again.
I'm going 4-0 on this one. France, Belgium.
Oh God. Belgium I can't trust them. I cannot do it anymore. I'm gonna go France. God, neither team has really excited me at all yet, but France is the better team. I'll take them 1-0.
I'm going 2-0 just because I'm just imagining Mbappe, Dembele, Barcola against a 40-year-old Jan Vertonghen and Boutfest. That scares me a little bit. So I'm going to go 2-0 there. Romania versus the Dutch.
We'll go. No, Romania's just not going to score. 2-0 Dutch.
I'm going 1-0 Dutch. Austria versus Turkey.
This one has the makings of an over if I was going to pick one, but I'll say 3-1 Austria.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. England versus Slovakia.
God. Slovakia, they've already proven that they can upset a team, and Belgium, but England find a little something. I'll say 2-0 again.
I'm saying 1-0 England, and then Swiss versus Italy. This
one I think goes to extra time.
Absolutely.
And I think Swiss done, and they go through on penalties.
All right, with the big chalk favorites, if you had to pick one, who would you expect to go out? I'll start. I'm going to pick Slovakia against England.
Beat England. They're just too talented to lose to Slovakia. But then again,
you could pick Romania.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to pick one, it probably would be that. Dutch just don't scare me. I mean, they're great defensively, but that's why I think it'll be super low scoring. But I think
didn't look great against Austria.
Yeah, but Austria is a different beast than Romania is. I think it would be low scoring. If I was going to pick one, I'd probably say Romania.
Gotcha. Well, that is the Euro prediction. We have gone a while, so we're going to quickly go to the Copa America. All the favorites have basically done their job. Argentina have won twice. Uruguay crushed Panama. Colombia got it done barely due to a James Rodriguez masterclass. But Brazil lay an absolute dud. I was trying to tell everyone on Sunday, this Brazil team is not very good. And they played Costa Rica, a lowly Costa Rica, in draw 0-0. Now, I would love to hear your takeaways because now every single team has a blueprint on how to stifle Brazil.
That game was disgusting to watch.
So
Like
gross.
they kept panning up to Neymar in the crowd, and his hand was just over his eyes. He couldn't watch, just like everybody else. There's no creativity. Like, how, I don't understand. If you play like Costa Rica, I just can't see like how Brazil scores. Like Vinicius, they were just sticking him out wide, and he was getting double teamed every single time he touched the ball. To be fair to him, that was a penalty that he drew
Absolutely.
in the first half. Should have been called, and Costa Rica completely got away with that one. I mean, Costa Rica had the ball with possession in the Brazil half less than 10 times the entire game. They just sat there and let Brazil do whatever they wanted, pass the ball around, and in the end, Brazil created absolutely nothing. It was unbelievable. So I think if you're going to beat Brazil, that is probably the blueprint. You just sit there, you let them pass it around, and once you get the ball, you just go. Because I was just like Ronaldinho. I was sick of watching this team.
Yeah, I mean, usually the blueprint is you sit back and you choose 3 times in a game to counterattack. Costa Rica chose none. They were
like,
so
we're just not going
satisfied
to do
with
offense
the draw.
today. We're just not going to play offense.
I mean, that poor number 9, God. But a couple of thoughts I had was immediately get that left back off the field. Starts in the Brazilian league. He's terrible. I think that they should go with someone else there. I don't care who. Just figure it out. Carlos Augusto was on the inner squad this year, played okay. I mean, started right back at left back. It doesn't matter. That guy was absolutely terrible.
Carlos at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So that was, one of my first thoughts. Rodrigo and Paqueta did not bring their shooting boots whatsoever. Vinicius dropped a stinker. I do think that Savio played really well when he came off the bench and was one of the only creative midfield or creative attackers for Brazil in that game. So I think you maybe bring him on a little bit earlier. But I still trust that midfield. You gotta need more of Vinicius, Rodrigo, and probably Savio. I'd probably start in the second round.
They gotta switch something up because it was just so lackluster. I think the stunning thing was, like, they took Vinicius off in the 70th minute.
That was shocking.
That was just like, oh, wow. Okay. So we're going to take the star man off in a 0-0 game. That was a ballsy play. I do agree. Savio looked fun. He looked out wide. Like, he wanted to do something. But I just, I don't know with Brazil. They just looked like they didn't even want to be there, to be honest.
No, absolutely. So after watching Brazil play, Argentina have 2 wins, Colombia, Uruguay, the U.S., who's your legitimate favorite? Are you still going to back Messi here?
Yeah. Yep. I think that they're still super talented and they find ways to win. And it wasn't even their best last night, and they still found a way to get the job done. I thought Uruguay played really well. They looked fun, but then again, that game was wide open. Like, somebody was going to score.
Marcelo Bielsa, bro.
Yeah, bro. You get the former Leeds man in there. We're going to have some fun.
Absolutely.
But I think Colombia is going to be more of a threat to the U.S. than Brazil will. And they obviously, the U.S. just played both those teams, so they have some sort of idea of what's to come. Played much better against Brazil, but part of us now sees why Brazil just can't figure it out. I think Colombia is a little more of, you don't know what you're going to get with them than Brazil, and that could be a little scary for the U.S. Luis Diaz can cause heart attacks on the wing. And the way James is playing right now, I mean, that guy's turning back the clock all of a sudden. You want to talk about, like, I talked about N'Golo Kante coming out of nowhere. Like, part of me didn't even realize that James Rodriguez was still kicking.
I don't even know where he plays.
I have no
Genuinely.
idea. I have no clue. But that guy's been around the block. So yeah, I think Colombia is more of a threat to the U.S. But as an overall favorite, it's hard not to still take Messi and Argentina with the kind of talent they have.
I'm going to take Colombia here. I think they're the most complete team. I've liked what I've seen from them. They need to play a little bit better, but I feel pretty good about that pick because they've done it in the qualifying. They beat everyone they need to beat. So I like them a lot. I also think, I said quarterfinals for the U.S. is my realistic take. I'm going to bump that up to semifinals now. I just am not. This is a very weak Copa America, in my opinion. And then when it comes to Uruguay, Darwin Nunez or Uruguay will go as far as Darwin Nunez is going to take them. So if he continues, he did get a goal, but if he continues to miss sitter after sitter, kind of like he did at Liverpool this season, then they're not going to be able to go to the final. But if he can do what I know he can do and what he knows he can do, then they might start to click here. And this could be, the tournament where Darwin Nunez kind of turns it around a little. I could see him being the top scorer, if he wanted to, because he had a load of chances in that first game and he just could not put the ball in the back of net, but still ended with one goal.
To be fair to him, the one goal he did score was nice.
Well, he scores screamers and misses the easy ones.
That is true. He took that thing nicely out of the air with the left foot. I was pumped that in. I was like, all right, okay, Darwin, here we go. But I agree that he's got to bury the chances he has, or Uruguay's not going to go anywhere. Or if he's not burying anything, let's get a Luis Suarez cameo going, huh?
I could agree. Now let's talk about the U.S. national team. They won 2-0 against Bolivia, a convincing display, but the final finish was lacking a little bit. Pepe, I remember, missed a pretty glaring chance late. I would like to see a 4-0 personally, but I'm not going to get greedy here. I'm happy with the 2-0, and what I'm really happy about, Balogun's probably been the biggest talking point in the U.S. in the last year because he has scored very little goals, had very little service. The Greg Berhalter style was just not fitting him. But today, against an inferior opponent, they were just knocking it about. He had plenty of touches and he looked great. And so I'm happy that Balogun opened the scoring, and then Pulisic obviously opening the U.S. national team bank account with an absolute screamer. I feel a little bit better about this team. Tyler Adams starting was definitely a surprise to me, and Musa on the bench, but he did put in a shift here. And any other thoughts that you had when it comes to the U.S. national team?
I actually kind of like the 11 they started.
Not saying I didn't. I just was surprised.
No, I know. I think that Tyler Adams adds some serious bite into that midfield, and he's always been that kind of scrappy player that will just win everything. And I think if you need to, you start Scally at right back. If you really want to, you could probably start Musa there. If you feel the need to fit him in, but I do think he's much better in the midfield than at right back. Like you mentioned, it was good to see Balogun get on the board. Only had one shot the entire game, but he took it. As you mentioned, he had plenty of touches. But, as always, the team's just going to run through Pulisic. And, he had another man of the match kind of performance, and it's been like that all year for him. So, again, it's going to run through him. This is going to be another huge tournament for him, I think. He can raise his stock even more, even though it's been growing all season again. If he can put together a top 2, top 3 kind of tournament in all of Copa America, he'll be turning heads all around the world. So it's good to see him score that kind of goal. That thing was ripped into the top corner. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back, because Panama has kind of been an interesting opponent for the U.S. over the past while. It just seems like the matchup itself doesn't really fit the U.S. It's a game we obviously expect them to win. And then once we get to the Uruguay game, that'll be the real test. But I liked what I saw for sure.
So how do you feel? So that's a good shout out. Let's see what the record, the head to head, with Panama is. Panama's starting lineup doesn't really look exactly scary, other than Carrasquilla from Houston Dynamo. I think I rate him very highly. But when it comes to head, We tied on penalties in the Gold Cup final stage. Then we won 5-1, and then we lost 1-0. So it seems like some very weird results here. But I think that U.S. should lay the wood here and put their foot on their throat. I think that Uruguay is going to absolutely throttle Bolivia. So if we want a chance at the first spot, we got to really put up some numbers here, as we do still have the same goal differential as Uruguay.
Yeah, who knows in the end at the end of this group how big that late Panama goal was.
Huge.
Which was an absolute screamer, by the way. I don't know if you caught that.
I did.
Bent that. Yeah, Buddy buried that from the edge of the 18, bent in the top corner, and I was just sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden I felt myself sink into the couch with how beautiful that was. But we'll see if that goal plays a serious factor into who ends up on top at the end.
We just got to an hour, so perfect timing, Harrison. Thank you for coming on the pod. This is another episode of the Full-Time Roundup. We'll be back, within a week or so, just to discuss Copa America in depth, and as well as the European knockout stages. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you for listening to another episode.